invites you to venture deep inside the caverns below the old Bachman Mill,
You're not thinking about going down in there.
where a secret lies long forgotten by any living soul.
Just ain't no job worth this.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey.
I don't even know what was up with that. This week,
I'm half dead.
like, you're a zombie? What do you mean you're half dead? What's
I
going
guess
on
that
with
would
you?
be Nightbreed, I guess, if you're half
Are you
dead.
Nightbreed?
Nightbreed. I'm at that time of the year where I just bought 3 lottery tickets and I'm done.
Done with
I'm
the school
done.
year? Don't
I'm
tell the
done with the
parents.
school
Don't
year.
tell the students.
I'm more done than them. They're actually working quietly and I'm just like
You're a zombo. You're totally
I'm
out
so,
there. You're like,
I'm
it's like that movie Awakenings. That's where you are. You're in the corner, just kind of in your
that,
chair.
where is it? Where's the L-Dopa? Because you're gonna have to put it directly into my heart.
You do need the Il-Dopa. I don't know. That's not what it was called. It wasn't called Il-Dopa.
Yes,
Sounds like
it
an
was.
Italian movie
Ciao.
about drug use. I use
Due il
Il-Dopa.
dopo, por favore.
That's
It's
correct.
like called El Dopo.
It's something
Il
like that.
Dopo.
It's something. Anyway, hang on. This week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we're discussing
Oh,
the
I
immortal...
type in Il Dopo and it comes up with an IT. So maybe that must mean something in Italian.
It's something. It's something. Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, starring a bunch of randos that you are not going to be familiar with. So you have that to look forward to. Each week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. Aaron, I usually ask you how you're doing, but I think the world knows now how you're doing. You want to take Il-Dopa.
Well, apparently, yeah. Oh no, that's all in Italian. Il Dopo means after, but I was trying to figure out what the hell the Parkins
I'm
El Dopa, not Il Dopo.
Il-Dopa.
L, the
Awakening.
letter L, Dopo. So I was close enough.
I think it's Dopa.
It's kind of the Italian works because it's after, before you're in a coma, and then after, hopefully you're not.
L, the letter L hyphen DOPA.
Didn't I just say that?
You
Didn't
said,
I gave you the L like a loser like symbol. This is for
Right.
our Patreon members who see us on video.
we do not have a Patreon, by the way. So
But now I think we should, just for shits and giggles.
Just
You need
for
to
our own
research
amusement.
that.
So what else is going on with you, Il-Dopa?
I will do a video of my barefoot stepping into weird things if you join our Patreon account. That's on my soap opera right now. They're earning money to pay their whatever British bills they have, and there's a site where they just take pictures of their feet. This is currently happening on My Stories.
There was a quasi scandal several years ago. The head coach of the New York Jets, they found like videos online of him and his wife. Like he's like a foot fetishist.
Yes.
Where it was like, but it wasn't like pornographic, but it was like you got the sense it was heading in that direction. Like here's a woman with her feet outside the window of her car, like in a park, and he comes up,
Mhm.
ooh, I have to say I love your feet. And it kind of went on in that way. And it was the head coach and his wife. This thing, they're adding a little spice.
And they're posting these videos?
I don't know what the story is.
Is it one of the Nannygate situation?
It was something.
Quite frankly, if
something.
people want to pay me thousands of dollars, I will put my foot in a cake. So
I'll put my foot in a cake. But then there was like a
high heels and wieners.
Yes,
No.
well, that's something else. There was a wide receiver for the New England Patriots who, like, before the game against the Jets, started making like kind of innuendo. He's like, well, we want to put our best foot forward. You know, it's not something where you just want to dip your toes in it. You know, it was like a lot of...
Pump. I
He
love
got
it.
fined. He got fined. So
For saying he didn't want to dip his toe into it.
he was allegedly talking about the game plan,
Right.
but he'd spent some time coming up with some zingers. Clearly,
And I enjoy it. Love it. Love it. Thank you.
you can Google it. It's good times.
Maybe I will.
Good times. Okay, so Aaron, give us your 30-second synopsis of Stephen King's Graveyard Shift.
Hillbillies don't like rats, but they're not rats. They're rat bats, but rat bastards. It's half rat, half bat breeding, like some kind of like a slug or a bee queen, and it's all disgusting, and it doesn't make any damn sense. And homie thinks, who plays the foreman, thinks he was trying to get his EGOT with this, trying to make up some crazy New England accent when clearly nobody else in this small town in Maine has any freaking accent. They're all over the place. But homie thought he was going in for his award. He's like, you know what? It's not the movie, it's the acting.
Oh, no question. There's no small parts, only small actors.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, he proved that to not be true.
there are small parts and small actors.
Correct though.
I have to throw a little notice here. Our buddies at The Horror Returns invited us on to talk about this in one other film, so they're to blame. And as you know, faithful listeners and watchers, we're not going to leave any meat on the bone. Okay,
We're double dipping.
We're the Native Americans who use all of the Tatanka, if you will. So that's
What's
how
a
we're.
Tatanka?
Did you see Dance with Wolves?
Like 300 years ago.
That's
It's got
what
Costner in it. You know my thoughts on Costner.
That is
so
true.
Is it like mini Tonka? What are the Tatanka?
The native people of
Are they
Dance with
Tatankas?
Wolves referred to the American bison as Tatanka,
Oh.
and so they use.
So
all of
is mini Tonka, does that mean they're like small bison?
It means you should purify yourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka, I think is what you're
Okay.
saying. Good
I have
times.
no
What
idea
am I?
what you're saying. What are you, like an encyclopedia of Kevin Costner movies? Tell me more about Waterworld and what that
Okay.
means to our global environment today.
I quoted Purple Rain just then. Prince says that's Apollonia. You need to purify yourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka because Prince was Minnesota's favorite son, as we all
It's true.
know.
So we
So
hear.
good times. So now you had never even heard of this movie, is that correct?
I somehow I don't remember it being a movie. I did read the book.
The novella from the Night Shift collection by Stephen King.
I'm just telling you, you can get away with a lot more in a book than you can in a film. Because your mind will, as long as it kind of makes sense, your mind will make it work. You know, in your
Absolutely.
mind, the rats look like rats and it's all plausible. But when you see all kinds of weird nonsense and I'm murdering rats for no apparent reason and I'm crazy and talking to myself, it's not going down so well.
I mean, that's sad but true. I mean, you're allowed to mute your microphone when you're suffering from the emphysema, by the way.
It's
Just
only half
FYI.
empha. It's a covazema. It's like
Covazema?
what I call it. There might be a rat in there. I can't see. Let me see what I hack up. If you see me start pulling like a tail out or a hair, oh, I guess that's the ring.
That's the ring. That was a yucky scene.
That
I
was
did not
very
appreciate
yucky.
Did not appreciate
Oh.
that. But the Night Shift collection, in my mind, is notorious because each story was probably like 7 to 10 pages. Honestly, they were short stories.
But it was fun. It was a fun read.
Yes.
I mean, some were
yeah.
definitely better than others, but I whipped through the whole thing.
No, I enjoyed it.
Quick time.
No question. But I think Hollywood took that and started pulling short stories out of that to make the acorn from which the mighty oak of their movies would grow. And there were no mighty oaks. I mean, that was like what, Children of the Corn
Yeah.
came from the Night Shift collection. Like we said, the Graveyard Shift, but also the immortal classic, The Lawnmower Man, came from
Jesus.
there.
Out of all these things, that's what they came up with. And they're not even the better stories, although Children of the Corn was a good little story.
It was a
How
good
they
little
F
story.
that up.
And the movie is not horrible. The first movie is pretty good.
Dude,
I
we're
would
putting it on the
venture.
list. It's been 10,000 years since I saw it. Maybe we need to put it on the list.
Put it on the list. But what's weird is I swear they made 6 or 7 sequels of the Children of the Corn movie.
Because every high school boy wants to go see it. Hey, Malachi. They're the people who then went on and named their kids Malachi.
Absolutely. It's a very popular name, as I'm sure
It's
you
very
know.
popular name for certain disenfranchised youth from the late 80s.
That is true. Now, speaking for myself, when the movie came out for Graveyard Shift, which is the movie we're talking about,
Is that what we're talking about?
I went and saw it not knowing anything about it, about this movie. I mean, because the title's kind of cool sounding. Graveyard Shift. Are there zombies? Is there a vampire? Who knows what's happening in this?
I'll tell you right now, you work a graveyard shift, you are the zombie. I had to do that for a couple of years.
Sad but true. What are you drinking, by the way? This is scotch?
Water. I'm sure scotch.
Could be. Little
Am I
bourbon.
108?
Could be. An old fashioned. So walking in there, you're kind of like, it's Stephen King. It's got a spooky title. Because I don't think I had read Night Shift at that point. This is like
I was just going to
1990.
ask you that if you had read the book yet.
Later, I went and read it, but not at this point. So you walk in there, and when you discover, oh, it's rats, kind of a letdown. Let's be honest. Oh, it's a rat movie. Not what I was in the mood for.
No one's in a mood for that, unless it's Ben.
And the two of us.
us.
We look no more. That's a good song.
We both found what we were looking for. I can't quite
Yes.
hit the high notes.
It's a good one.
But and of course, there is a scene where they also give a nod to Baby Jane, and in the background, there's some jackass with the book Ben.
Yes, absolutely, no question. You know, frankly, we need to add the original Willard to our mix here as well. I saw the remake with Crispin Glover.
Yeah, it was pretty stank, and I love a little Crispin Glover.
I do too.
I don't think he's really fully utilized in Hollywood. I mean, I don't know what it is. He must be a pain in the ass because there's plenty
Yes,
of
he is.
assholes who produce garbage who just keep on working. That's all I can come up with.
Well, and he could be kind of an off-brand Nicolas Cage if that's. I mean, he could have cultivated that kind of. I'm a weirdo in the movies, given weird
Right.
performances, and we'd appreciate that. But I think he is kind of difficult. Like he considers himself kind of a superior thespian, which makes it difficult, I guess.
You got that from his performance in Willard, or
From his exactly in his
But
performance.
I mean,
in
Sean
Charlie's
Penn
Angels
has
Full
to
Throttle.
be a total pain in the ass, and he's
But
still
he's-
rocking out prestige pieces.
This is
Okay,
true.
he's a little higher. He might be a click. He's for sure a click above, but
He's a much better actor, but if you notice, he's doing a lot of straight to streaming these days. Let's be honest.
I think that's how you control. I mean, this is the thing. If you got the clout, you can produce whatever the fuck you want. You don't need to wait around for someone to come to you. And
Or you
I
can
think
do
that's going to be. This is how I solve racism in Hollywood.
Okay.
It really comes down to, if you really want it, sometimes you just got to create it yourself.
Nicolas
And even
Cage
if it's
is
streaming,
Bangkok Dangerous.
I don't even know what that is. That sounds
You
like
don't
you're
wanna
talking
know.
gibberish.
It might as well
But you
be.
know what I'm saying? You know, you put it out there, you create it, you put it out there, and if it gets traction, then it's going to get recognized. Someone's going to pick it up and distribute it.
Well, somebody's got to write the check though to make the movie.
I mean, sometimes you got to do a GoFundMe or whatever. But I mean, do you remember in the innocent time of the early 2000s where it was all about independent films and
Absolutely.
I'm only watching independent films now? You
I
know,
never said that.
Shut your mouth.
I never.
I've
said
given
that.
up on Hollywood blockbusters. It's just a rehash, and it still is. But I mean, you get your iPhone, you get a stabilizer, you come up with a story, you put your shit out there, and if enough people watch it, you're gonna get picked up. And maybe that's what it has to be.
That
Because
being said,
the Hollywood's just fucking doing Marvel 25,
it's true.
DC 78, and anything like that.
It's true. They want that pre-existing IP to sell to China, basically. Very
Ah.
upsetting. So your Sean Penns and Crispin Glovers just get lost in the shuffle. It's a very sad situation. Let's
Crispin,
get back.
we're rooting for you. We're rooting for you, brother.
We're rooting for you. Let's go to the
but
highlights.
hang on.
Sweet
Before we do
Jesus.
that, I did watch Babylon, and you know who's in Babylon?
Crispin Glover.
Eric Roberts, our other unsung hero.
Eric
Roberts.
Eric Roberts.
I know. I love Eric Roberts. Also underutilized, but he does make a cameo in that train wreck.
Eric Roberts, since now we're going down this road, he's happy to be in because he was in Dark Knight. He was in the Dark Knight as a mafia kingpin. Gives a good performance.
Yeah,
doesn't go crazy, but you can also find him in such films as The Specialist with Stallone and Sharon Stone, where it's kind of an erotic thriller about a bomb maker, and James Woods is there going crazy. If you haven't seen The Specialist,
I have not. I thought that was the one with the French guy, but I think that's The Professional.
That's The Professional. Leon the Professional. Check out The Specialist. It is a glorious train wreck. All sorts of off-the-wall performances. Rod Steiger gives an offensive Cuban performance. He's supposed to be Cuban, Rod Steiger. I'm going to repeat that.
He must have been 172 years old.
172, giving a horribly offensive Cuban accent. So check it out. It's hilarious. Good times.
Worse than Jared Leto in House of Gucci.
It's that level, if that's what you're looking for. House of Gucci. Anyway, Graveyard Shift. Let's go to the highlights. Aaron, you start. What do you got? Anything?
The highlight is when, like I said, they're at the diner. It's a town of weird hillbilly racists against drifters, and they serve him a platter. Because when was the last time you were at a diner where they had one of those dome lids? You knew immediately what was going to be on that. It was a rat on like lettuce leaves and sliced tomatoes.
It ain't lobster thermidor. That much we can guarantee.
And the fact is, ye old drifter just kind of looked at it and picked it up and just moved it to the next table.
Well,
this is an action. Is this an action film? It's just horror. Why? At one point would you fight these toothless wonders? At what point would you not take that rat and just shove it up his ass?
Well, it was very bizarre. The drifter drifts into town, walks into the diner.
As one does. He drifts.
And literally goes to the bulletin board looking for a job, and within 5 seconds, 3 random townies are messing with him. For what reason? He's been there 5 minutes. Maybe he's just using the bathroom, right?
I think we learned there's only 2 women in this town, so already there's a problem.
There's a problem, and there's only 2 businesses in town. Evidently, there's the diner, and there's the textile mill where everybody else who doesn't work at the diner works at. So
and by textile mill, even when they were showing us the working mill, the room was probably 25 feet by 10 feet. So I find it hard to believe. And it appeared to be one person working it. So I'm not sure how this is employing the whole town.
Okay, so there are levels there are multiple levels to the textile mill. There's the top, like the loom, I guess. What am I, a textile expert? Where there's like a bunch of dudes moving looms around and shit. Then there's a dude down below who's got the picker, I guess is what they called it. He would dump in kind of the raw cotton, wool, whatever some kind of fabric. Is
it a cotton gin? Is it?
It's the cotton gin. Absolutely.
We're very up on agriculture here. Clearly. We're pretty sure it was in fact cotton.
I think so. I have no.
I mean, it could have been a woolen mill.
It could have been silk. right? Could have been a
Could have
silk.
been, maybe it was silkworms. Maybe it wasn't a rat bat. Maybe it was a giant silkworm.
Maybe you just dump the silkworms into the grinder, and that's how silk comes out. Is that how it works? I'm not sure.
That's exactly it.
That's it.
100%.
Now, do you know why this movie's called Graveyard Shift?
Because they force all their employees to work only at night because it's a town of vampires.
Because it's a town of vampires. No, well, kind of. It's the Graveyard Shift because for this textile mill working on the machines is so hot. It's like 100 degrees working on the thing that they can only work at night to kind of like the cool of the evening will cool down the machines, I guess.
Can you open a
That's why.
window?
No windows down in the picking room where you're by yourself.
And in the
throwing barrels.
90s, we didn't have air conditioning?
Not invented yet. Not invented yet.
Not invented in Maine.
In Maine. Absolutely. So we haven't even talked about that. So that the foreman of the mill, again, not the owner, the foreman of the mill who drives like a fancy car. How much are they paying the foreman is what I want to know. I mean,
what the hell was
clearly
he driving?
$1 million?
Some old bullshit Trans Am or something. What was it?
I thought it was like a kind of a 60s kind of
Like a Chevy Chevelle.
But it was like
I'm just saying car names now.
Yeah, I don't know what any of those words mean. But it was like a nice, like old fashioned kind of car, kind of like what you'd see in like Grease or something. Grease 2.
Oh, so like from the 50s? Did it have fins? I think
it had
drifted away.
fins. I think it had fins.
Was it Grease Lightning? Did it fly down from the sky?
Absolutely, it was Grease
Go
Lightning.
Grease Lightning.
So he is evil, clearly. And there's a thing where it's like, I guess underneath at the level below the picking machine, there's just storage. And it's packed full of just random crap from way back when. And I guess the building inspectors or whatever, OSHA, is like, I'm going to have to shut you down. Because this is a fire hazard. It's a freak show down here. And he slips him a couple hundies, and the guy's like, okay, well, just get it taken care of at your leisure then, I guess.
I thought he gave him a time. Like, what about till the weekend? Because he was like really cracking the whip on them taking care of it. I thought it was just an extended time.
I think you're right. So basically, he is forcing certain members of the people who work at the textile mill, the foreman, to come in over the 4th of July weekend to work overnight, again, because it's a graveyard shift anyway, to clean out the storage. Am I remembering this correctly? Is that what the story
first, they were hired to kill the rats. And then all of a sudden it like morphed into this, we got to throw shit out while killing rats. We're trying to clear this out, but at the same time, we have fire hoses
That was the weird thing.
break
I didn't
up
understand
furniture, to spray on the wall, to flood the place more, so it's more of a disaster. It made no mother effing sense.
Well, okay, so they were there using fire hoses to break up the crap and haul it away, not to kill the rats. And actually, a dude down there says as much. Remember, he's like,
And then he
"We're
gets
not here for
fired."
this," and he gets frickin' for even mentioning it. He's like, "Are we supposed to be killing these rats? You're terminate." I'm doing the crazy guy's accent.
What did you say? What did you say?
Oh, is he Australian? You're fired. You're fired.
Fired.
Now, I don't know. I can't even do it. It's the
I
craziest
can't even
Maine
do.
accent.
I can't even do a crazy
over.
Maine accent.
Graveyard shift. You're working
Now
the
you're just
graveyard.
walking. Now you're just walking.
You are working the graveyard shift. He fires that dude. Get your walking papers. I don't know.
For
what
no
these-
apparent reason.
Right. I thought you needed dudes to work. You can't. Dude says one thing. He doesn't say F this, let's unionize. He just says, are we supposed to kill the rats? You're fired. Clean up. Get out of here.
And no discussion about the people who actually died by falling into the mangler.
Well, and that's so people have died. We know that multiple people have died in this. And it seems like people know that it's a death trap. Because at one point, the foreman is like, secretary, you're my personal assistant. Now you're also working down in the dungeon.
Because you
And
won't put out
was
enough.
that what it was? Or was it she thought they had a thing going and he was still tossing her down to the
It was
pit?
very undetermined. He was like driving hard at her at work, while she seemed to be like, no, no, no.
Well,
Then
there's
all
two
of us-
chicks.
No,
There
no,
was
there's
two
two
girls.
chicks.
Right.
But the factory one was the one it like he was all handsy with, but then at the same time she was trying to push him away,
Right.
and then all of a sudden she's offended because they had a deal that she wouldn't work down there. I mean, it was very confusing.
Well, there was two chicks. There's the one girl who worked like with the textiles and shit.
And then like a secretary chick.
And then
The
there
only
was
two
the
chicks in
secretary.
town.
That's correct. So you're right. The one textile girl who eventually shacks up with the drifter briefly, he gets handsy with her. She says, hell no. So now she's working over 4th of July weekend down in the pit. But he also put his secretary's name on the list. And she thought that they had a thing going. So she gets pissed off and grabs an axe and starts smashing his car. And he's about to punch her when the drifter steps in because he's a man of honor. Like, you can't do that. Well, there's like 30 other townies just sitting there watching, going, I wonder what's going to happen now.
Where do we
So-
even get the word townie? That is not a West Coast thing. Is it from too many S.E. Hinton novels?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Because in California, we don't have towns. There's no towns here.
We have
there's-
cities.
We have cities. So
We
it's
don't
already
have villages. We don't have towns. We have unincorporated areas.
We do.
But that's about
I don't know what
it.
the euphemism would be for those people, but that's neither here nor there. So she smashes the car, and then I guess she gets fired, which I guess makes sense. You can't smash the boss's car with a fire axe and keep your job. I guess that makes sense.
Well, it
It
did
seemed
get
like
her
an
out of working
overreaction,
in
though.
Ratville.
She was the smart one after all. But that's what I'm saying. Did she? Because like I think we talked about this before, where she was like, "I know things. I'm going to tell people, but what you're doing, big guy," and we don't know.
No one
anything about
knows
that.
what that was.
Yeah, there's never any.
What was he doing?
back.
Was that his still? I don't even think that was his still. It all seemed very. So what was he doing? Just
Being a jackass,
effing
or-
around? Effing around? What was he? What was the big mystery?
Well, what was it? Okay, there's also the exterminator guy, so maybe it ties in with this guy, where there's a big scene where he's like pumping water through the pipes and blowing like old dead rats out into the groundwater. It's kind of like that movie.
Is that what?
Prophecy.
Is that the big secret that we're moving rats from here out into the river?
I think it could be. I mean, it's hard to know. Like they're polluting. I think we're supposed to think maybe that's what it is. Because then later, the boss blackmails the exterminator, saying like, "Hey, you didn't, clean up those rats properly. You just dumped those in the county aqueduct. So now, hey, you got to do some free exterminating work for us." So
And
there you
honestly,
go.
he did about 2 minutes worth of work. He did the most jackass version of trying to get rid of rats that I've ever seen. First of all, why don't we clean all this shit out of here, and then I'll get rid of the rats.
Step one is clean up the crap. Don't have like mountains of crap down in the sub
Oh yeah,
basements.
it looked like the oh my god, what's the name of that factory that burned down in New York because exits were sealed? Like at the turn of
Oh,
the
yes, yes,
century.
I don't
The
remember what the
triangle shirt factory. So
Oh,
it
yes.
was like where the emergency exits are bolted up. They're storing stuff on the staircases. I mean, that's what it looked like. Anybody,
Absolutely.
and they were all smoking. So just the wrong flick of the lucky strike, and that place was the town's gone. It's
right.
it's
It detonated like
silent
the
hell.
Hindenburg, basically. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. He's like, so we're cleaning out the sub basement. You never see anybody hauling shit out of the basement. It's ever like, oh, hand me
At
those
one
chairs.
scene, they were taking papers out of a box and putting it into a different box.
Yes, they were like
Nothing-
sorting. There was a lot of sorting going on, but
How
nothing
do
getting hauled
they
away.
know? These are all like old records. How would they know what to keep? They're like putting them in different piles. What?
Meanwhile, dude with a fire hose is spraying everything. So how do you differentiate between spray this, don't spray that?
Right. At
Makes
one
no
minute,
sense.
he's looking at this roll top desk. It's beautiful. Next minute, he opens up. It has like 5 rats in it. Of course, it has rats in it. There's 1,000 rats here. And so they turn a fire hose on it and break it into kindling.
Just destroys it. I mean,
So now you got to pick up scraps.
Yeah, that's a much better plan. Do you think the fire hose is there just to break up things into smaller pieces? Is that what you think? Because I had no idea.
No, because the dude seemed to be focusing on the rats. He was literally doing nothing but spraying it at rats. So this was their version of killing rats.
What a ridiculous plan.
This is stupid. So
this-
stupid. This movie
So
sucks.
then, while they are in the sub basement moving shit around ever so briefly, they find another trap door that leads down even further into the bowels of the earth.
It's
that what
almost like they skip past the level because on the way back, I'm totally confused because there was the level where it used to be one of those old mills that was generated by water.
Hydroelectric. Right?
Well, it's not electric. It was physical. The water turns.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Like
there was the big wheel. But then there was another level with just had a still. Did you remember? I mean, what the hell was that? They're like, oh, there's just a still here.
Just random shit. Just
random bullshit.
And
they're like, we're going to use this to burn the rats out. Well, then if you're going to light fire to the mill, why don't you just do that? Because quite frankly, it seems like it'd be cheaper to burn that rat trap down and rebuild.
Might as well.
Especially at this point, you're literally going to take all the hooch and turn it into Molotov cocktails.
The hooch. And the sub basement is flooded. And probably because the dude's fire hose. Let's be honest. I mean, it's a goddamn freak show. So we haven't even really talked about it. Early on in the movie, like the opening scene, some rando is using the picking machine, dumping the fabric or whatever in there. And he turns around and there's 1,000 rats. And he's just kind of like watching him. He's just kind of like, well, that's kind of a pain in the ass. Throws one of the rats into the picker because he's a dick, I guess is what it comes down to. A weird freak.
First of all, he's picking up a wild rat the size of a small cat and having a whole conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. It was so stupid. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Yeah.
He tossed one into the picker as a warning to the rest. And then a shadow comes up behind him and knocks him into the picker. So that's the end of that dude.
I mean this is being, when it gets upstairs, it's going to be all bloody. Like no one's going to see that. I mean, this is something that's
this shit. Right. Everyone would know there had been a murder of some sort or an accident, maybe not a murder.
And this is like the Acme Linen Company, known for their weird discolored thread. It's all the color of old dirty underwear. Only the finest.
Only the finest. And again, who's cleaning the picker machine of the viscera? There's no scene where the cops are investigating.
So fucking
right?
stupid.
Like, oh damn, we better get to the bottom of these untimely deaths. Later in the movie, they discover the giant bat rat creature's lair, and there are literally 10 feet high of just bones. Piles and piles. Like, what, 100,000 people were killed in this town over the years and no one noticed?
I mean, why does the mill have to be attached to a cemetery? First of all, what's that about? Yes. Why is the exterminator digging through graves to get to the mill, out of the mill? What the hell?
Graves, yes.
What the hell? What is eating all that? I mean, quite frankly, they're like whole torsos with a head attached.
Are the rats? A
Full
full
skeleton.
skeleton.
Are
Like,
the rats
what I know.
eating from the cemetery? They walk around at night, popping over crypts and coffins and nibbling, or
Why
was
not?
this like New York City, and now all that's left is the 4 people with 3 teeth amongst them working at the diner in this mill?
That is
Is
correct.
all that's left after The Walking Dead?
That is correct. That is it. No, there's no investigation. Even when the one dude escapes, okay, and I guess he stabs the creature and puts it in the picker. He escapes. There's never any like, well, we've got some job openings because 15 people are all dead. Our entire workforce has been murdered from the creature below. Who knows?
You
They
think
all
that would have
jumped in the
made national?
picker.
You would have think that would have made national news. My other
Yes.
concern is I am so confused by the foreman. The point where he just literally goes crazy and starts doing the literal opposite of what he wanted to do, and then murders the girl at the end, where he's just
Yes.
a berserker now. Once again, he's crossed over to the Nightbreed, and
That's
now
right.
he's just randomly running around killing people. Porque?
So in the sub basement, one of the dudes falls in a pit and is eaten by a creature down there. And everybody goes, "Oh shit," and scatters, but of course there's no way up. The stairs broke. The
We
stairs broke.
learn later. Hang on. We
Yes.
learn later it's a giant rat bat. So is
Yes.
rat bat, because that's the only creature besides just normal rats. So it's
Yes.
also aquatic, and with
Yes.
its giant wings is swimming around in a basement.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is
Just painting a
correct.
picture. Painting a picture.
So the dude, they find a hand in the sub basement, and the big dude goes, "Oh damn," and runs for the stairs, and the stairs just decompose, like just in a puff of
Because
dust,
I built it with balsam wood.
balsa wood, and he smashes through that into the ground, into a further recess where he is killed by the aquatic rat bat. At that point, everybody scatters. I would have said, I'm still going to try to climb out because it's not like it's 30 feet up, right? I'm still going to try to climb out that door that is right frickin' there. I know it's right there. The rat bat is down in a hole over here. I'm still trying to climb out. They do not do that. They run in all directions. And the foreman, as you mentioned, now decides, you know who's really to blame? Not the creature in the swamp, but the drifter. I'm mad at
And
him.
the girl who won't sleep with me.
And they are to blame. Now, thankfully, the one dude is like, "You're crazy. Why are you talking about them?" That makes sense. He literally, like Mr. Roper, he turned to the audience and goes like, "I know this makes no sense. I am the audience advocate. I acknowledge makes no sense, but I guess it is what it is at this stage of the game." So,
I
good
love
times.
a good Mrs. Roper reference. Thank you for that,
Absolutely. It's a
Mr.
keeper.
Roper. All of a
Any
sudden, I'm
of the
like,
Ropers.
I know what I'm going to be for Halloween this year. It all came
you-
to me.
Audra Lindley, is that her name? Mrs. Roper?
100%. I'm ordering the wig. I already have the caftan.
You gotta have the moo and a lot of like plastic bracelets all over, up and down your arm, and big crazy earrings and a
Fantastic.
necklace. Got to do it, no question. Standard. Let's see. Anything else we want to talk? We barely spoken about Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif, the star. As a cameo as the crazy exterminator. You might know him. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest back in the 70s. But around this time, he was more famously known as the voice of Chucky. He was Chucky in the Chucky movies. So good times. He's bringing some crazy to this role. This was
Okay,
a
first
Crispin
of all,
Glover level.
he's always
performance.
bringing the crazy. Let's just be straight.
Absolutely.
When's he not? But tell me when he's not bringing the crazy.
There's the one role he was calm and cool and collected. No, that has never happened.
No.
It's one layer of crazy after another, but he is dynamite. Dynamite. Are you surfing the internet? What are you doing?
No, I'm looking over at my notes.
Okay.
all I kept thinking of, and then he just goes off on this whole like Vietnam thing. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is how you know it's like an 80s movie. Contemporary movies do not go wax on about Vietnam and the Viet Cong ad nauseum.
Well, yeah,
Because everybody's too young.
there was a lot in the 80s. Everybody was a Vietnam vet. Everybody was a Vietnam vet as far as
If
the
you were a
movies were concerned.
drifter, if you were
Yes.
crazy, if you were this, there's always a Vietnam backstory of why you are the way you are.
No question. And the Viet Cong, he was inspired by the Viet Cong to become a rat exterminator based upon his experiences in the Nam.
With his
there you go.
description of a Viet Cong rat torture, all I could think about was American Psycho because it was a very similar story, except it was someone's cooch instead of your side.
I'm
Don't
never
ever read
watching
them.
that
Don't
show
ever.
again.
No, it's the book. It's not in the movie.
American Horror Story?
No, I said American Psycho.
American Psycho. Yes, I will never read that
Excellent
book.
movie, very disturbing book.
It's yucky. Well, they also did that in a scene in Game of Thrones as well. There was that where they were trying to get information about the Starks or whatever.
Oh,
the
I
evil
mean, let's
Lannisters.
be straight. The idea of the starving rat pressed up against some part of your body, even I think in some of the Hammer films, it's a very popular thing.
Oh, it's not a good thing.
It's yucky.
Not a good thing. And then we haven't even talked about over the closing credits. There's the Bizarro remix rap song.
Dude, we
where
gotta
it's just-
find that. We gotta find that. We
I'll
need to
find
put that on our site.
It is so ridiculous because it's like literally just highlights. Like they grabbed a bunch of like dialogue from the movie and turned it into a crazy jazzy remix over the closing credits. And I was saying I had not seen this movie since 1990 when I saw it in the theater, but I remember that song 30 years later.
Can you hum a few?
No. I didn't remember the details, but I just remember Graveyard Shift because they kept saying it over and over in the crazy accent.
It's
I'm like-
totally like that crazy spoken word song about 10 million people were killed in Vietnam, and remember that song with all the statistics? Oh fucking hell.
That
God
doesn't sound
damn
like
it.
a toe tapper. I'll tell you what. Sweet
It was
Jesus.
a thing. I can't think of the name of it. It was music with just like these facts about Vietnam. I think it was from the 80s.
Sounds lovely. Any last thoughts and feelings?
I'm gonna Google this.
Do not Google anything. It's not good pod to be Googling things while people are sitting there watching or worse, listening from the confines of their
Well,
car.
I
or while
can
they're
do
doing
it
dishes.
il dopo. You just talk for a little bit while I find that crazy song.
You are Il Dopa, first of all. Sweet Jesus. I will talk about that there was a surprising death that I couldn't believe. Now you had the scary foreman who psychotically, they even save him. He falls down in an avalanche of bones, and the drifter and his girlfriend go like pull him out of the bones, kind of rub the dust out of his eye. Are you okay? And he immediately goes into a psychotic rage and tries to murder them.
Well, he
And it-
does murder one of them.
And it ends with him turning around and stabbing the girl. And finally the drifter takes care. Well, he doesn't. Like the foreman gets tired of fighting them. And then he goes down the hall to go fight the rat bat. The drifter's like, looks down at his girlfriend and goes, well, I guess she's dead. I'm out of
Yeah.
here.
Looks
And,
dead enough. Peace. Peace in the Middle
sorry.
East.
Peace in the Middle East. So did you find what you were looking for, or did you give up the
No,
chase?
you can't just Google songs about Vietnam. There's a surprising number of songs about Vietnam.
I mean, you can, but you won't find what you're looking. You have to refine your search.
But I
That's what they say.
still haven't found that
What
song I'm
I'm
looking for.
That's all I'm looking. Okay, let's go behind the scenes, shall we?
Oh, please tell me more.
This movie was filmed in the village of Harmony, Maine, at the Bartlett Yarns Inc., the oldest woolen yarn mill in the United States.
Oh, so what is wool? Not cotton.
There you go. And they
Boom.
named the mill in the movie, the Bachman Mill, which, as we all know, was Richard Bachman was a pseudonym of Stephen King when he wrote like The Running Man.
All right, let's just be straight. I was alive at that time, and Stephen King wanted to write books that weren't just horror. So the Bachman books came out and laid there like a dead trout.
Well,
And
it goes
then
back even
they
further than that.
well,
Goes-
all of a sudden the book started having the sticker that said this is in fact a Stephen King novel.
Right. Well, yes, for years, critics were like, Stephen King could print his laundry list and sell a million copies.
Yeah,
And
Stephen
Stephen was
King,
like-
not Richard Bachman.
He said, screw you, I'll fix your wagon. So he wrote like 5 or 6 stories under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. And guess what? They did not
Nobody
do very
gave a
well.
shit.
They did
nobody
not do
gave a
very
shit.
well.
Yeah.
Eventually they released all the books as like a big compendium or whatever, a big thick book just titled Stephen King's The Bachman Books. And Running Man was one of those books. There's a few, and I actually enjoyed them quite a bit. There was like Rage, Apt Pupil, I think was another one.
No, Apt Pupil was in different seasons.
Oh, I'm mixing that up. You're right.
Yeah.
It was different seasons was when he was like, I don't just want to write horror. I will write Shawshank Redemption. I'll write The Body. which
Rita
became Stand By Me.
Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Uh,
Good times. Let's see. Tom Savini was attached to direct this film in the late 80s, but pulled out due to lack of studio interest. That should have been the signal, right?
and lack of his interest, clearly.
Yep. The girlfriend.
And he's done some stinkers, quite frankly.
Oh, no question. I mean, if he's if they're like, no thanks, Tom, that should tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconski, who is the girlfriend, mentioned she's from Castle Rock, which of course all the Stephen King people know that's a famous Stephen King city.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. The producers were afraid that the rats would not be terrifying enough, so the talents of top voiceover artists were added to the soundtrack to make them sound scary.
Because they don't make sounds. Unless, I guess, if you step on them. They're like rabbits. They don't make sounds.
You kick them a little bit. Absolutely. Squeeze
You hear the
them.
little scratchy. But it's not beep, 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 beep,
Maybe
beep,
they
beep.
do.
No, I had a pet rat.
Let me see. Stephen King heavily disliked this film and named it one of his least favorite adaptations, calling it a quick exploitation picture.
100%. But I like that he said that, but not about Lawnmower Man.
Well, they called it Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man, and he sued them and made them take his name off.
Hell yeah. There's nothing to do with anything.
Nothing at all. It was totally just like, we've got this ridiculous virtual reality story. Let's just take this name of unrelated Stephen King novella, slap it on there, and you're good to go. Such ridiculousness. Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The first cut of this movie got an X rating due to all the violence and gore and had to be cut down for an R rating. The actress Kelly Wolf, who plays Jane Wisconski in the film, said originally there was a nude shower scene.
Oh my God.
Which showed her breasts, but the scene was deleted, along with more scenes focusing on the love story between Jane and John. So we just kind of assumed that they were boyfriend and girlfriend just because they were kind of polite to each other
so
on
stupid.
occasion.
It was just a train wreck. It's just a train wreck.
Just a horrible train wreck. Let's see. I think that's about it. Should we talk about the cast and crew? Shall we?
You got something to say?
I got many things to say. The director was Ralph Singleton. You know him from such things as 75 episodes of Cagney and Lacey. He was the production manager.
I thought it was the director at Cagney and Lacey.
No,
he was like
production
half
manager.
a gopher. He would get the coffee.
A production
People
manager does more than that, but he's not the writer. He's not the director. Production manager for Murder at 1600, that Wesley Snipes movie that no one remembers. Production manager of Last Man Standing, which was the Bruce Willis action film that people don't really remember. And of course, director, producer for The Graveyard Shift. Good times.
And what did he do after this? What's the next film he directed after this?
I mean, I could look it up. Would you like me to
I
look it
think
up?
you should. I just want to know, was this the career ender?
Well, let's see. Unit production manager in 2008 of Trailer Park of Terror. You know it, don't you? Let me see if I can find specifically. Here we go. Oh, he only directed 2 things.
Mm-hmm. He
Oh,
got
he-
this award, the Stunk Award.
He directed 2 episodes of Cagney and Lacey and The Graveyard Shift.
Oh no.
And that's it. There you
They
go.
must have been. I actually used to enjoy the old Cagney and Lacey back in the day. So clearly, it must have been the 2 worst episodes.
The screenplay was written by John Esposito, loosely based upon a story by Stephen King. He, as a writer, he has done, let's see what we got here. He wrote some episodes, 5 episodes of the Creepshow TV series.
I didn't even know it was a TV show.
Yep, he's written a lot of TV. Teen Titans, 2 episode, the cartoon series.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour. He wrote 2 episodes. He wrote 10 episodes of The Walking Dead webisodes. So
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
This is more and more of a dumpster fire.
Let's talk about the cast, shall we?
Shall we?
Let's see. Dave Andrews played the main character, John Hall. I'm sure we don't even remember that the main character's name was
I don't
John
even know
Hall.
any of the characters' names.
The Drifter.
There's the Drifter and the Foreman. And then there's Secretary Girl and Flashdance Girl. The end.
That's correct. He was in Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines as Robert Brewster. He was in Apollo
I don't even think I
13.
saw that. I just announce every time I see those robotic dogs, it's the Rise of the Machines. It's happening.
Absolutely. Honestly, as we all know, every Terminator movie after Terminator 2 is dog shit. So it's not even worth thinking about.
Okay.
He played Pete Conrad in Apollo 13. He's an actor I've seen in other things.
Never
But he's
saw that.
he's a working actor, let's call it that. He played Scooter
Okay.
Libby in Fair Game.
Oh, I wonder if
and
I saw that.
He
Sounds
was
familiar.
Sam Treadwell in Cherry 2000. You know,
Is
it,
that a
don't you?
porn? What kind of a
Could
name
be.
is that?
I'm not asking. Don't ask,
All
don't
right.
tell.
All right.
Kelly Wolf played Jane Wisconski, ostensibly the girlfriend. You know her from Graveyard Shift. She was in something called Margaret. Oh, she was she was Lyle in Less Than Zero in 1987. So you can go back and watch that, and you can see her.
Oh my God, that is the worst.
And she was in 2 episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
Never
you
saw an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Refused.
Becky loves it. My wife
Of
loves
course. Yeah. So does your mother.
it. A lot of people do.
A lot of
Stephen
ladies.
Stephen Mocht played Warwick, the foreman.
Yes. I swear I've seen him 1,000 things, but when I went to look him up, I was like, huh.
He was the father, Del, Sean's dad in the Monster Squad.
Never saw that.
He was in Amityville 1992. It's About Time, a straight to video
It's
movie.
about time. It's about space. It's about
Something. He was in Trancers 4, Jack of Swords.
Trancers. That's Full Moon Entertainment, isn't
That
it?
is absolutely full moon. I always mixed him up with a guy named David Hess, who was one of the villains in the Swamp Thing and one of the villains from The Last House on the Left. They look kind of similar, but are not the same person.
Maybe I'm thinking of the same thing. Yeah.
Could be. Andrew Divoff played Danson. He's been in a ton of stuff. He was the guy who was crying in the sub basement. Leave me alone. I don't want to go. He was, people talked about this. He famously was the villain, the Djinn in Wishmaster, those Wishmaster horror movies that people love.
Never
Uh,
saw Wishmaster.
yeah,
I
horror
had
movies.
no idea what the hell they were talking about when we were
It's
on
a
the other
horror
podcast
movie.
about that.
So he's the monster in that movie. He was one of the evil Russians in Air Force One trying to kill Harrison Ford. He was in another 48 Hours as Cherry Gans, one of the bad guys in that. And he was Luis Cali in Toy Soldiers in 1991. That's where the kids of the prep school have to fight off the terrorists. You know,
Oh, I might have seen that. That might
yeah,
would have been one of those, like, I've already seen everything at the video store, so what's next here?
that's pretty much it. And of course, Brad Dourif played the Exterminator. No other name necessary, clearly. You know him for Billy Bibbit and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yep.
He was Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. He was Peter DeVries in Dune in 1984. See, good time. He was also
his name should have gone over the title.
no question. He was also Deputy Clinton Pell in Mississippi Burning, one of the racist police officers in that movie. He was also in
Yeah, that was an upsetting movie.
Just a little upsetting.
Yeah.
He was also in Exorcist 3. If you haven't seen Exorcist 3, it is off the wall bonkers, but also amazing.
I've never seen Exorcist 2. I feel strongly you just need to stop at number 1.
That is sad but true. Let's talk about
what about Rosemary's Baby 6? How come that didn't spin off 10,000 crazy bullshits?
I always talk about Psycho came out in 1960.
Yeah.
22 years later, Psycho 2 comes out. Okay.
Is that the Anne Hesh and Vince Vaughn?
No, that was the
reimagining
remake from like the late 90s.
Where we learned that it's just not a matter of making it shot by shot, because it was not good.
It was not good. Let's talk about the rating, shall we? Rotten Tomatoes. No rating. Only 7 reviews, none by top critics. So I'm not even gonna dig through the randos.
I'm not even gonna say it's no ratings. I think the rating is 0. They couldn't put enough energy to give it a 0.
Not one top critic thought it was worth their time to check it out. So I'm not even gonna deal with that. What do you think the audience score was?
15.
23.
Close.
23%. What is your rating?
I think in the world of graveyard shifts and cannibal holocausts, I have to put Cannibal Holocaust above this, only because I was never really sure what was going to happen next. Versus Graveyard Shift, where you weren't exactly sure, but you also didn't really care.
Right.
I stick with my solid 1 rat placed in an orifice by the Viet Cong out of 5.
It always comes back to some orifice work with you. It's all orifice action. I gave it 1.5 crazy aquatic bat rat things that fall in the picker and get and no one cares. Yeah, I mean that was kind of my attitude. It was a thoroughly forgettable movie where you just like, I just don't really care.
It makes no sense and I don't care, and it's not weird enough to be funny. Although we needed more aquatic bat rat. That literally sounds like something from Hanna-Barbera from like the early 80s.
Absolutely. No
it's
question.
Aquatic bat rat and his wacky friends traveling in El Camino, solving crime, making friends.
Not El Camino. Could be. Well, and I guess this was kind of true to the story, where in the story it was kind of a bat rat kind of thing. but it never is like flying over the countryside grabbing somebody. It's just kind of slithering around, and every now and again a wing comes and grabs somebody, like from the freaks from Beastmaster. You don't even remember that movie.
I wasn't seeing that bullshit.
Oh, it was a classic. So yeah, I would say not even waste your time. Don't even waste your time. Not worth
If
the
you're
effort.
curious, get the Stephen King short story collection, Night Shift. That's enough. That's
all you
enough.
need. That's all I need to know. So
You're never gonna get back those 2 hours. Oh
You
no,
will not.
don't even wrap it up because I have an update.
Give me your update.
Remember when we did the Grace Slick film Vamp?
Grace Jones. not
Grace
Slick.
Jones. I knew it was one of the Graces. So literally, I've been buying a lot of concert tickets. So I'm always seeing who's out, who's about, who's touring.
Grace Slick?
Slick. Grace Slick is touring.
But not Grace Jones.
Not Grace Slick, Grace Jones. God damn it. Grace Jones is out and about. Unfortunately, the concert I saw was like in Berlin or something, but I'd be like, oh, I'd totally buy tickets to see Grace Jones just to see what you do.
Just to see. I actually prefer Grace Slick if we're talking about music. Her work in Starship in the 80s, Chef's Kiss.
My friend Julia, her mom used to go to AA with her back in the old days of the Bay Area.
I believe it. Well, and she was kicked out of Jefferson Airplane. Excuse me. She's kicked out of Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and Starship because of her drug issues. You know, it's bad when the 70s rock band, psychedelic, they're like, it's too, Grace.
It's too much.
It's too
Dial
much
it
even for
down.
us.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting. So thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Look for our WTF videos while you're at it. Good times had by all.
By all.
You can we are oh Lord. We're on Apple Spodcast. We're on I think I'm having an aneurysm.
It's a mini stroke. Another mini stroke.
A series of mini strokes. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. You can also email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. Make sure you rate, like, review, share the good news. And Aaron, what's your social media biz?
Much media. I'm on the Insta. I am the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am Don't Feed the Pigeon, and I am the somewhat monitor of the podcast that wouldn't die, Ticker Talker. I also have beautiful artwork for you to buy on Etsy and First Dibs. Aaron Doherty, check it out.
Beautiful. I didn't even mention we're simultaneously on YouTube. So if you'd like to see us in all our splendor, you can go there or just listen to us on your phone. Listen to the podcast. It's the exact same show. Good times. Good times.
Now I'm really curious about our algorithm. So if you are watching a bunch of our videos on YouTube,
God willing,
what is being suggested?
I imagine it's a lot of 4chan.
4chan, little QAnon, a little
dark
little
web.
Holocaust deniers. What else?
Well, that's just basically if you use YouTube, that's everybody's algorithm. Very sad. Very sad. Next week,
I forgot to tell you, we have a fake Elon Musk following us too. I mean, I assume he's fake because he only had 100 followers, but
I mean, Elon's not as popular as he used to be. So
he has not sent me a direct message. With usually the fake people always end up with send me a direct message. So it could be real.
Could be real. Next week, we're discussing the Clive Barker extravaganza, Nightbreed. Good times.
They don't breed at night, friends.
Oh, sweet Jesus. So you can watch that. I think I watched it on Shudder.
And I saw it on Tubi.
With the ads?
Of course.
The way it was meant to be seen.
Where Jesus wanted it.
Absolutely. And there's a director's cut. There's the theatrical version. Who gives a damn? Flip a
Ex-
coin.
The ending's
You'll
totally
be-
different depending on which you see, but in the end, it really doesn't matter one way
In the
or
grand
another.
scheme of things, who cares, right?
Who gives a?
Send us your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on this show. Good times. So, thank you very much, and be well.
Bye, children.